I am in an unconditionally blissful relationship with appearances. Today I would like to discuss neutralization, inspired by the principle of rhythm section in the book, The Kabbalion. And I trust that this will be very helpful for you to experience a flow-based journey to actualizing your visions, whatever they may be, as it has been for me as well, and those that I've worked with. They speak of the principle of rhythm, which considers to and from movement, a flow and inflow, a swing forward and backward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow. For example, imagine a surfer about to enter into a wave. They're not trying to control the tide-like ebb and flow. Rather, they remain unconditionally blissful in relationship with the appearances as they enter into the wave and ride that wave in a flow-based way. The same is, let's say, with an investor. The markets may fluctuate. They may go up and down. Yet they remain in their divine center, as we've been referring to it. I am being unconditionally blissful in relationship with appearances. And they know what moves to make. And they don't see the markets fluctuating as a problem. If it goes up, fine. If it goes down, fine. They can adjust accordingly so they can still actualize their vision, whatever their income goals may be. I notice in the entrepreneurial journey, this is also true. We may have many deals in harmony and in contribution to the vision. Some might be moving in a way where the individual interprets them to be moving fast. Some might be moving in a way where the individual interprets them as moving slow. Is one better than the other? Well, upon being an entrepreneur and building 3 successful businesses since 2009, I came to the realization that if the deals are moving slow, fine. If the deals are moving fast, fine. It doesn't restrict my flow to actualizing my vision. As I remain in this unconditionally blissful relationship with these appearances, I know what moves to make. Yet, prior, if I tried to force the deals that were moving slower, I would do unnecessary behaviors, resulting in stress and frustration. So it is easy then to know what to relate to appearances, what to do while we're in flow, and we remain in our flow by valuing neutralization. They say that the Hermetists, by studying the operations of this principle, have learned to escape some of its activities by transmutation. And by that it is meant that if the individual considers ebb to be problematic or holding them back from actualizing their vision, they can actually escape that identification, the biases that they have, which result in them making moves that are unnecessary on the journey to actualizing the vision. Now, this is something we get better at with practice. We learn this by considering this every day on the journey to actualizing the vision. We'll go through some examples of how. So, neutralization. You may transmute the appearances by transmuting your relationship with the appearances. For example, I brought up the surfer. If the surfer was frustrated with the tides, that would result in an untrue relationship with appearances, rather than relating to appearances from the premise of truth, knowing that I am unconditionally blissful, and thus being in relationship with the waves. What is suggested here is to release that control. Neutralize, be still. That's the way we neutralize, by being still. They say, rising above mental activity so that the swing of the pendulum is not manifested in consciousness, and therefore they are not affected. It is akin to rising above a thing and letting it pass beneath you. All individuals who have attained a degree of mental mastery accomplish this, more or less unknowingly. What this means is, we know what this is. We've experienced this in various activities. Perhaps you're like this now when it comes to riding a bike. Maybe you're like this in conversations with people, in sales. Maybe you are like this now with a particular hobby, where you've had many reference experiences that have taught you that there's no need to be concerned if things appear to go in one direction or another direction, because you've seen many times that by worrying about the appearances results in stress and frustration, and as a result, doing unnecessary things, which don't actually contribute to actualizing the vision. Rather than perhaps bringing awareness to the belief that is going on within, that has been identified with in the subconscious mind, to be released. We could say that's a benefit. So, all individuals who have attained any degree of mastery, mental mastery, accomplish this, more or less unknowingly. Yet we are bringing awareness to this, so we could practice this to a higher degree, and thus remain in the flow, even when it appears that the world seems to ebb. You remain unaffected by appearances, and your attention goes in a different direction. So as mentioned, the entrepreneurial example. By remaining neutralized to appearances, if deals are moving fast or slow, remaining in your flow, you know what moves to make. Let's say if the individual is identified with appearances, in a way they say those deals that are moving slow, they perhaps think that they need to manipulate them now, force them to move faster. As a result, it creates inharmonious relationships, stress and frustration, and at the end of the day, they feel tired. By practicing this, they know what moves to make, and I've seen this many times. By not interfering with the deals that are moving slower, they somehow make progress. It's interesting. And whether the deals move fast or slow, you still end up actualizing the vision. Because what happens, another thing also, is more deals may show up, which based on the volume of deals, you actualize the number faster. You allow these deals to show up by not trying to control the appearances. And all of this is a result of, as I titled the mind map, being as I am in an unconditionally blissful relationship with appearances. So by not allowing emotions and particular mental states to generate the illusion of affecting them, they remain neutralized to appearances. They remain neutralized to appearances. So the hermetist depolarizes or polarizes themselves to a point, not participating in the swing or participating only at a point, and inwardly remains in this position, allowing the mental pendulum to swing back to the desired point to move with accordingly. They say the master, however, carries this to a much higher degree of proficiency, and by the use of his will, he attains a degree of poise and mental firmness, almost impossible of belief on the part of those who allow themselves to be swung backward and forward by emotions. So as mentioned, emotions are energy in motion. Let them be. By relating unconditionally to them. What I mean by that is not labeling your emotions in a way where you consider them to be problematic. If you experience strong emotions, you can allow those emotions to be and thus neutralize the energy to remain in your ideal state of consciousness. Emotions are energy in motion, part of the human experience. They don't actually control you. The individual has formed beliefs in relation to appearances, labeling their emotions perhaps in an undesirable way, which then, in relation to appearance, if they see this appearance, they react to it and say, this holds me back, or this means that I won't achieve my outcome. This does not work, or some absolute statement. When in actuality, it is revealing, the emotions are revealing identification to a belief. As the individual releases identification to the belief, which in the moment, what is being discussed here is to be still. They are able to realize that I am unconditionally blissful in relationship with appearances, and they know what move to make or not make. So as they say, an understanding of the workings of this principle will give one the key to the mastery of these rhythmic swings of emotions and will enable them to know themselves better and avoid being carried away by these inflows and outflows. Let's look at some examples. Social interactions. During what an individual interprets as conflicts or misunderstandings, instead of reacting impulsively, they can be still to neutralize and experience clarity. This neutralizes emotional swings and grows the relationship. So as mentioned, if the individual emotionally reacts to an appearance in the relationship, they may say something that generates unnecessary conflict. And then as a result of what they said, they may shame themselves or condemn themselves, further identifying with that belief that the emotions are revealing. It is key to not identify with the emotions, and by that I mean labeling them in any other way other than energy in motion. This is what I do. I don't label them as negative or problematic. It's bad to have this emotion, etc. Energy in motion. Let them be. That way also, the individual does not suppress or repress the emotions. They let them be. And it is also helpful to bring awareness to the belief that is resulting in the emotions being experienced in that particular way. So we can say then that social interactions, as joyous and fruitful they can be in business, personal life, etc., they can also bring awareness to beliefs which are revealed via your emotions. If an individual feels anxiety during social interactions, they can understand themselves without shaming and condemning themselves. And through the principle of auto-suggestion, they can release identification to that belief. For example, if they experience anxiety in interactions with people, they may say to themselves that more so, as I interact with people, I feel joyous, comfortable, blissful, knowing that I am truly love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, in harmonious relationship with individuals, or something like that. Whatever speaks directly to their subconscious mind, artful communication, or as I like to call it, artful autosuggestions, in a way that does not trigger resistance from the untrue beliefs. If they speak directly to themselves in a way where they listen to themselves and trust themselves, they'll notice that as they interact with people, they feel less and less anxiety. And so, allowing emotions to be can be very helpful. Yet at times, there are what an individual says as strong emotions where they label them a particular way, let's say anxiety. It is helpful at that point to write it down and then later on, or even in the moment, release that identification through self-talk or autosuggestion, like I mentioned. Why do we do this again? As we are interacting with another individual, if the individual interprets conflicts or misunderstandings occurring during the conversation, they may start to emotionally react and as a result behave and say things which they truly desire not to say or behave in that way. And then again, they may further shame and condemn themselves. So in that moment, they could be still. Allow the emotions to be. Realize that I am in an unconditionally blissful relationship with these appearances of these relationships. This neutralizes the emotional swings and grows the relationship as well. Number 2, skill cultivation. During what an individual interprets as rapid progress and at times of slow or no progress, they may form biases as a result of these interpretations. The way I like to look at it is if it appears, as it only appears that way, as rapid, slow, or no progress, fine. I show up for the practice. If I committed to the practice Monday to Friday, let's say from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I'm thinking about when I was practicing snowboarding, cultivating that skill. If I committed to show up Monday to Friday, 7 to 9 p.m., then I show up and I enjoy the experience. I don't compare myself to people on the slope. I don't compare myself to the people that I watch on YouTube that are teaching me. And I also do not interpret the progress in an inharmonious way. So there are days where it appears that there was slow progress. And then there were days where it appears that there was rapid progress. And there may even have been days where it appeared as no progress. Yet what was interesting about that is on the days that were slow progress and even no progress, in the days that followed, there was rapid progress. Because I might not be able to visibly see what's going on inside of my body, all the changes that are occurring. Yet I know that if I commit to this initiative from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. again and again and again, and enjoy it from a state of flow. I also practice what we're discussing here, neutralization. Not only do I cultivate the skill, I also release identification, thus remaining as I am. And that's priceless. So in the earlier stages of skill cultivation, I would get angry if it didn't make progress in a way that I was interpreting progress should be made at this pace, every single day at this pace. And that would lead to frustration and times where I would not want to do the practice. This was back in the days, not with snowboarding, but with other skills I was cultivating. I would not want to do the practice for days or weeks because I was interpreting the practice to be inharmonious, which was a result of identification to inharmonious beliefs, because truly, the individual is beyond belief. I and the Father are one, as we discussed in Sunday's video. I'll link in the description to it. I am in an unconditionally blissful relationship with appearances, truly. So I release that identification by being still in those moments, enjoying the experience, whether I consider it to be slow progress, fast progress, etc. Enjoy the experience. And what happens? Mind is purified from those beliefs. And you get to a point where you cultivate skill in a flow-based way. And you have released identification to these biases. We can also say this about financial growth, as an example was given earlier. Income and expenses could vary. Investments may go up and down. The deal flow may fluctuate. Yet, we can be still to neutralize if there's about to be identification to the rhythm in an inharmonious way. What could be looked at as either deals going up or down, release identification to one being better than another. Neutralize as a practice. And what's fascinating about that is clarity arises. The still small voice and intuition, you know what to do, what moves to make, and it may be considered unconventional. Because as they had brought up earlier, which I really like, they said that the master, however, carries this to a much higher degree of proficiency. And by the use of their will, they attain a degree of poise and mental firmness, almost impossible of belief on the part of those who allow themselves to be swung backward and forward by emotions. There may be a lot of individuals that think it's normal to be swung back and forth by emotions in particular situations. Yet through the practice, you brought yourself to the realization that you can be blissful in this appearance, even if many consider it impossible to be blissful in that appearance. And I got to this point in the regards that I'm thinking of through this practice, again, again, and again. So what's the practice? Well, such as through examples here, social interaction, skill cultivation, financial growth, remain depolarized as applicable. As applicable. If reactivity is about to occur, in which an individual identifies with one way being better than another. Be still in that moment. And notice that clarity arises, and things even may change on their own. I've seen this many times. I noticed one time I was identified strongly with a particular deal, as it was not moving in a way that I thought it needs to move faster, let's say. I let it be. And then all of a sudden it started moving faster. It's interesting. So, what is the outcome as a result of being unconditionally blissful in relationship with appearances, in a way we're discussing here? Well, you'll see it in wonderful ways. I choose not to put my bias as to what it will look like, because it manifests for the individual based on their vision and what is ideal for them. What I do know is that, A, it's a wonderful practice to practice this, what we're discussing here, neutralization. And number two, as a result of doing so, you're able to flow where it appears many are ebbing. You're not concerned by rhythm, flow and inflow, swinging forward and backward, pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow. And in relation to appearances, like social interaction, skill cultivation, financial growth, you name it, you experience a flow-based journey to actualizing that vision. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, beyond appearances and beyond interpretation of ebb and flow, I remain as I am, unconditional to appearances, blissfully relating ideally to appearances. And from this premise, I know the moves to make as I remain as I am, transmuting what could appear as obstacle into opportunity, what could appear as ebb into flow, as everything I touch turns to gold. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.